So, I told you that there's a team of reporters in Ekiti. We've heard from Ayodele Zupaku. Sarah Ayeku is also on ground in Ekiti. So let's find out from Sarah what the situation is, where, to use an Americanism, where she's at. Hello, good morning, Sarah.
Yes, good morning.
Okay, so how is it with you? We've been hearing reports from, Ayodele Zupaku, and maybe we need to hear the same from you. Just give us a background report of how things are where you are.
So I am in Irepodo, a fellow to local government area of Ekiti State, specifically in Ekiti, where you have the Minister of Trade, Industry, Trade and Investment. He's from here, and he's also the first governor of the state. That's from 1999 to 2003. And before I give you like a situation report, I want to say something that he said, which is that he was commending when I spoke to him earlier. He commended INEC for introducing technology into, of course, the electoral system in Nigeria. But of course, said that maybe INEC didn't envision that you will have this large turnout of voters, which is what I've seen here in Ekiti. Almost in all the polling units that I've visited, the turnout is massive. And so even from the polling unit that you can see here, you see that security operatives, I wish you could get a pretty clear picture, but security operatives, are trying to control the crowd and just ensure that, of course, the process is free, credible, and transparent to all, because party agents are scattered around the polling units. And so the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Tini Adebayo, had said that if, this technology was introduced back in 2003, maybe, just maybe, he might have been able to get a second term, So that was what he said. But is very happy that INEC has introduced technology into the electoral system, and then hopes that going forward, considering Osun governorship election and then 2023 election that we're going to be having next year, is hoping that INEC, of course, would envision the large turnout of voters we're going to be expecting, because right now we're seeing a lot of persons joining in the electoral process, wanting to be part of the electoral process, wanting to vote for their preferred candidates at various elected positions. So that's what we're seeing right now. So around the polling units, of course, in my own, in this local government, where I am, you see that there's a distinct line, which is according to INEC guidelines, the distinct line for the elderly and people with special condition like pregnant women and the persons living with disability. So there's a special line, a queue separate from the usual line that you have at the polling units, to, of course, give them preference first, to allow them vote first before you now consider other people. So that's what we see in the polling units around here. And people are excited. They want to vote for someone they feel can bring the desired change they want to see in their own community. In your community, for instance, when I spoke to a lot of some voters, they say they want to see the governor build a university in their own community. As you know that people always say that when you come to Ekiti, you see a lot of professors and a lot of learners in the community. So they want a university in their community. Of course, they have made some other demands as to potable water, good roads, and all other infrastructure development that they want to see in their community. And so they're enthusiastic, they're happy, they've turned out en masse, to the various polling units to cast their ballots.
Those special lines that you spoke about for the elderly, we also had heard that there were in other areas such people that were given priority, maybe pregnant women, maybe the elderly, and that kind of a thing. But we also heard the worrying information that it would appear that some senior citizens were not able to be captured, but that wasn't the case for regular other folk. Anything like that in your area?
We didn't hear anything like that, but it was across board. The technology, at some point, didn't work for some persons. The fingerprints didn't recognize their fingerprints. At some point, it was just the facial recognition they had without the fingerprints. So it was across board. But for now, at this polling unit, which is polling unit 003 Ward B in Ekiti, it's working perfectly well. Just at the corner there, you see the INEC official I've seen a lot of elderly, get their facial recognition accredited. get themselves accredited, for this process, and then they've gone ahead to cast their vote. But the problem is the large turnout of voters that INEC officials are seeing, and the influence of party agents, to these voters. So you see that there is like a chain. There is a chain of communication from the party agents to the voters. And so you earlier, before some party agents wanted to cause a kind of promotion earlier, saying that you should not be showing your ballot paper to anybody. So some persons will, after they cast their vote, they will just give you a slight peek, to the party agent or to somebody that they had spoken with earlier, and then they show who they had voted for. So, but you had other party agents, of course, saying, "I know that will not be allowed," and then you see that this persons will go meet some other persons, and then you see that chain. So you don't see anybody inducing anybody at the polling, but then what you see is that there is a chain of communication. So from one person, when the person ascertains who you voted for, they move to the other person just to say, okay, yes, this person has voted for this person. So that's what we see playing around there. But of course, we cannot get video evidence because we do not want to be beaten, by people around. So that's what we've seen so far here. But the turnout is massive from each home. Just on this street alone, I see about 3 polling units, and then the turnout at this polling units is massive. But just along the road, the road that I saw, there's a polling unit that you didn't have so many people there, and which is some of the concerns that election observers had raised about the fact that some polling units do not have the large numbers as against the other polling units maybe that have been before the new polling units were introduced.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that mop-up. Stay with us.